about the scale of some power plants. We have a company in Berkeley who is actually making some great strides in developing small gasifiers. Their market really is I'm not going to be politically correct here. I don't think we call them developing countries anymore. We call them, I don't know what we call them, emerging, thank you. So that's really has been their market, but they're starting to look at getting these units into the domestic market in the United States. They really have been focused on developing a power pallet, basically pallet size, something that's easy to ship, gasifier, in that small, very small production, 10 to 20 kilowatt capacity for that pallet, and in a very moderate price range. And they've made great strides in this. And they have a demonstration unit of 100 kilowatt capacity at University of Minnesota now. So these companies do exist, and they are making very good gasifiers that are producing a gas that has some real value. Other companies, there are a whole list of them. Many of them are in other countries. We have some examples of this one, the Ankara from India that are in California. One example I can think of in California. I'll show you a picture of that. So there are lots of companies that are developing these kinds of gasification systems, and that's a really good website to go to if you want more information on gasifiers that are available, gasifiers.bioenergyless.org. This is Phoenix Energy in California. This is that Ankara gasifier unit developed in India. It's in the San Joaquin Valley, California, near Fresno, in Merced, California. And it's designed to produce 500 kilowatts of electricity. It's a downdraft gasifier. They've had some real issues in operation. I mean, this is a system that it runs a lot in Europe, in India. There's a lot of these in operation. They've had some real challenges here in some of the plant design, mostly related to the tar. Getting the tar out of the gas, it's created a lot of maintenance issues. So operating hours on this unit have not been nearly what they had hoped they would be, but it is last time I looked, it was not operating. It was being retooled. But they are building a larger installation, a 1 megawatt installation. No, in fact, it is built. I don't know the operating history of that. It's very recent. But we're starting to see these gasifiers starting to come. This company in Oakdale that has this system now is a wood fiber processing company. So they're in the business of collecting wood material and producing fuel for biomass power plants. They put in this operation in their facility to help with some of their energy needs. So it fits the need, and that's one of the things about the scale opportunities. Look for those opportunities where you have an energy need, you have a available resource, and you can make these things work. This is an example of this is actually a walnut farm, produce walnuts, organically certified walnuts, one of a large producer. He's put this system in. It's from Community Power, one of those companies that was on the earlier list. And it's a gasifier unit. The way this works is the gasifier is over on this end, the reactor, and then it goes through the process of the cooling down the gas, tar cleanup, getting the char out of it. And this is the engine, the internal combustion engine that burns the gas with a generator attached to it and produces the electricity. So he's producing about 50 kilowatts of electricity from that, but also capturing the heat off of this engine and using it to help dry walnuts. One of his big energy costs is drying walnuts. So this helps him. He's also has a lot of he has solar collectors and running a refrigeration unit off of the electricity that he's producing here because he needs to store his walnuts in refrigerated rooms. So big energy costs, and this is helping him get to controlling some of his is energy costs in this walnut farm. It's been quite successful for them. This has a long, now I think about a 3-year running period on that system. It's been reasonable, and maintenance operations hasn't been down that much. So it's been a very successful unit. Problem is, it's a very expensive unit, the cost of putting this in, and it was in fact funded, some of this early development was funded by the Fire Service, community power, the small-scale gasifier. A lot of research development, and this is a unit you can basically control from a laptop anyplace. So there's a lot of design features in it with sensors and controls, so you don't need a person there operating this equipment. And that increases the cost dramatically to do that, but that was one of the things they thought was important. I don't remember. Larry, do you remember? Yeah, it was. That's right. Yeah. What they're selling for. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah, I think that's right. Farsight actually bought 3 of them in there, 4 or something. Yeah. Anyway, one of those things you learn. But it is a very good unit, but the costs are high. This is a research and design development, a fluidized bed gasifier that's received funding from the California Energy Commission, from a lot of other places. They've been in development now for a good 5 years. In fact, they're changing the whole reactor design to a different system. So it's really the research development problem. What they're trying to produce is a high value syngas through this process, and it's still in the development stages. But you have a unit that's designed for, actually the grants were to do a demonstration pilot plant designed to operate at a very high temperature, 1400 degrees Fahrenheit here, 5 tons of biomass per hour, and it would yield about 500, enough syngas to produce about 500 gallons of ethanol. Those were their targets. They haven't reached it. It's still in development, but it kind of gives you a sense of some of what's going on. We need to really look at, if you're going to increase the woody biomass used to produce electricity, all those challenges that we put up there, is look at ways to offset the high costs of getting that fuel to the power plant, educate the public on the value of the well-managed and sustainable and productive forests, improve the conversion efficiencies. That's where all this research and development is going into, and really make that argument of the whole life cycle assessment of all the energy alternatives. And wood looks darn good when you do that. And that's something that we really have to work on that. And it's going to be the policies that really drive this, in my opinion. And what kind of policies are developed in this country is an open question. We talked about all the environmental issues. They're important, can't be overlooked. And the societal values of the market is where we really haven't failed to convince society that this is a good thing. Minimizing those infrastructure barriers and getting better rules and fees for making this work. All important things to do. So this is what California looks like. We have actually about, in that neighborhood, some close and open, rough number, 25, 28 facilities using forest-based or woody biomass in their power plants. We have more biomass power plants, but they're strictly ag residues. They don't use the woody component. So that's what the map looks like in California. Most in that range of 10 to 20 megawatts, and that a few larger than that. And scattered around the country, produces about 2% of California's needs. So it's not insignificant. And they're roughly based, even the ones that are used woody biomass also mix in those other feedstocks, the manufacturing residue, the diverted landfill, and ag residues, so that the competitive fuels, what they can get and what price. So there are certainly more opportunity in California for more power plants, but we really haven't built a new one. Well, actually, we've converted a few coal ones into very small coal use in California. They've been converted to woody biomass, but from the ground up new one, I don't think we've had one in 40 years. So this is what they look like. That's the 20 megawatt one I was thinking about earlier. That's about a 4-month supply of biomass fuel there. The air emissions cleanup, you can see, is just as big as the boiler and generator system is. It produces about, processes about 150 to 180,000 bone dry tons per year. And the rough rule of thumb is a bone dry ton gives you a megawatt hour. Biomass 50 miles, it's delivered in that price range of $20 to $60 per bone dry ton. And again, the 9 to 12 cents per kilowatt hour. An installed cost for building this in that range of, 3 to 5,000, probably on the higher end, 5,000 per kilowatt. That's kind of what they look like in California. I guess you double that for Hawaii. This is a cogeneration plant at a sawmill. Similar operation, the air emissions control unit, very large. This one is about, I think it's about 8 megawatts, if I remember. And 10% of the power it produces is used by the sawmill itself. The rest is sold to utilities. And because they use the heat, these are the steam pipes at the top going to the dry kiln, they use the heat to dry their lumber. Their efficiencies are quite high. They can sell that to the utilities. They've been negotiating rates in the neighborhood of 6 to 11 cents. Well, that's hardly paying the cost of production. And that's the rub in these power plants in California. It's always a struggle to get the utilities to pay what they really need to make this a profitable venture. And the installed cost for that power plant was about $10 million in 1986. They use about 240 bone dries of woody biomass a day. And these are their numbers, 335 days a year it's in operation, with an operating cost of about almost $5 million. And it works. And it works because they have a residue. Well, actually, this sawmill is diverting some of their residue into landscape uses that have higher values. So they're buying fuel on the open market to fuel the power plant. So, you're always looking at the fuel costs and what you can get out of it. So that higher value use is important. I think we already talked about all that. That's a duplicate slide, how to encourage more biomass utilization. And the role for local, regional government, community organizations, really to get involved in finding the right sites, helping with the planning, making it easy to get those permits, the financial aspects, and the public education and outreach we really can't stress too much. Particularly in California, it's very important. You're amazed at some of the roadblocks that can come up. Even though a power plant can help the local economy and produce some new jobs, there can be a lot of resistance to putting it in. Some things that a colleague of mine's been looking at is some opportunities for new biomass ventures in California, just to throw out some ideas. Looking at, getting some extra co-products out of things where you can use the heat for other manufacturing or something. Look for that value added. And one idea he had was a brewery uses energy. Why can't we put a biomass power plant at a brewery and use that heat to make beer? So he likes beer. Hothouse, we had some hothouses in California, both for tree nurseries and for tomatoes that were using small gasifiers to produce both the electricity from a small generator and also the heat that they need for controlling temperatures in the greenhouses. So, looking for those kinds of opportunities. There's a lot of interest looking at public buildings, particularly with gasifiers, providing energy for those. We're seeing some interest in that in California. But you know, there's always challenges to all these things. But those are the kinds of things that we need to be thinking about. There's something I wrote late at night, and I don't even know what it means anymore, but it's my last slide, I think. Yeah, right, so you can read that, because I'm going to turn it now over to Hawaii. I like wood, I like trees, and I think that we're going to see more use of woody biomass in the future as we start to sort out some of these, what the bigger picture, what this really means and how we produce energy and use energy in this country. We're going to see more of it being used. Trees are never going to go away. Wood's going to be around for a long time, so we need to use it wisely. On that, I'm going to turn this over now to, I think, Scott. You're up next, right?